Today's webinar is dedicated to methods of urban planning towards a smarter and more sustainable society, and it's organized in cooperation with Goethe Institute and Nordic Council of Ministers. And to describe today's webinar, I stole the first sentence of the description assigned to the first presentation today, coming from Elke, but I'm going to give her a chance to express her presentation herself a little bit later. But I very much liked that she said, we often discuss what is needed for the future of cities, and experts know a broad range of what to do, but often the question of how to develop cities is not dealt with. And I very hope that today we're going to find some answers, some clues how to do that, and we will focus on such topics in the next following presentations. Before we go down to the regular program, sorry, I couldn't resist. I just needed to tell you about the weather in Riga. It's +24. It's crazy, right? I'm gonna show you. Like this is my backyard. Look at that. It's so green. It's turning green right now. So I very hope that. Oh, thank you for spotlighting this. This is fantastic, right? So I very hope that by the end of today, we will understand that greener cities are always better cities. So that's a little bit of me. And I also didn't use my headphones so you can hear all the sparrows and blackbirds, seagulls and tits. So some sort of background music from birds. So I think it will work out. But anyway, we're back to business. And I'd like to give the first word to Ms. Datte Malmbade to open this event. She's the member of the European Parliament and the vice chair of the Committee on Culture and Education, also the hostess of this webinar series. So Datte, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good afternoon. And actually, I would also like to turn my computer and to show how green is outside from the spot I've been sitting. And I'm happy to be actually in Riga today. So, and to enjoy these 23 degrees outside. And I think the best place to be is these days. But indeed, today we finalized the series of seminars, so we can divide into two parts. This spring we meet because, and thank you to European Culture Institutes in Latvia. And today in particular, we have to thank you, Goethe Institute and the Nordic Council of Ministers. So, but actually our collaboration platform goes back to the September, if I remember correctly, when we had the first forum devoted to the European Culture Capital program. And I'm very happy to see that during this course, the 9 Latvian cities have announced their will to be candidates for the European Culture Capital. I think that for Latvia and for the size of Latvia, so it's quite a good number, and we hope that our seminars somehow also gave you fresh ideas to work on your strategies and programs for European Culture Capital initiative. And I know that there are just some steps left, and quite soon you have to submit your programs, and then you will have the first round with jury. And I'm looking forward to find out and to learn what result is. Using this opportunity at the very beginning of the seminar, I'd like to say huge thanks to Culture Lab, in particular Eva and Ilona, who are the main persons behind these seminars and have done quite a lot. And I would also like to say thank you to Sarmita, which is my assistant, who helped also to organize this series of seminars. About today's seminar, methods of urban planning towards a smarter and more sustainable society. I believe that this seminar is organized in a strong spirit that culture and creativity play an essential role in sustainable urban development. But also as an inhabitant of a city, so when I have to give my first answer, what I think is urban planning, my first answer is that I believe that urban planning is about forming relationships between city and its community, its people. And I also believe that it's about realizing the main challenges and problems city faces and turn them, wherever it's possible, into opportunities. So from the perspective of the European region, European Union, what are the main challenges the cities of Europe have been facing? So I will name some of them. First of all, individualism. So you have to seek answers how to build relationships with the e-generation. Then acceleration, you have to find smart solutions to provide fast city services dealing with the societies which like to get everything here and now. And then this acceleration goes hand in hand with high-tech, high-touch, artificial intelligence solutions. And your challenge is how to manage and humanize digital transformations. And if you like to learn deeper EU context regarding digital transformations, I'd like to advise you to take a look at the Digital Compass. That is an EU strategy how to translate European digital ambitions for the next decade into concrete targets. Then one more challenge is, of course, related with economy and its market changes. And there you have to predict the future professions and create new jobs. Then the fifth in my list is demography. And here you have to see how to balance society who is getting older, and to see how to ensure prosperity for all groups of society. Then, of course, for European cities, quite a challenge is so-called metropolitanization, and there you have to encourage people to stay and live in your city, and even more, you have to find the strategy how to attract new inhabitants, in particular young talents, specialists of contemporary professions, for instance, specialists in ICT, different areas. So metropolitanization also goes hand in hand with the question how to build relationships with the countryside. Then, of course, I can't miss climate change. And here again, from the EU perspective, you have to find the ways how to localize and implement Green Deal in your territory. And finally, I would also mention migration. So how to accept it as an escapable reality, how to turn the growing diversity of society into opportunities. So these are just some of challenges I wanted to mention from a European perspective, but of course, each city has its own particular challenges you have to identify in a dialogue with your local communities, and so seek also solutions for them. My final words also would be related with our future collaboration. Even I told that we finalized a series of our seminars. You recently probably received my invitation to join for the discussion on Bauhaus. I don't speak today about Bauhaus. I have done it already several times in the previous webinars. But on 17th of May, you have an opportunity to join a discussion, and we will have an opportunity to listen to the advisor of the President of European Commission, President von der Leyen. And Ruth Reichstein is her advisor in the Green Deal and Bauhaus initiative. And I really encourage you to come and to listen and to ask your questions. And in this way, you will find more details about the Bauhaus initiative, and maybe you will have some ideas how you can integrate it into your activities. So these are some words from my part today, and now I'm looking forward to listen to our guest speakers. And thank you, Martin. It's everything from me today.
Thank you very much, Dace. We move on to our next opener, and he is Arndt Roskins, Director of Goethe Institute Riga, known also as, I'm not going to say that name anymore. Anyway, Arndt, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Martin, and Labdien, and good afternoon to everybody. My name is Arndt Roskins. I'm the director of the German Cultural Institute, the Goethe Institute, and we are very happy to be part of today's seminar, and thank you very much for inviting us to participate here. When Dace approached the European Cultural Institutes in Riga with the idea to contribute to this cycle of seminars, we were very enthusiastic about it, and to be able to contribute actually to the development of ideas and strategies of Latvian cities who are preparing or thinking about applying for the title of the European Capital of Culture. Maybe I should say just a few words about UNIC, for those of you who are not so familiar with it. UNIC is a network of national institutes of the European Union. And the UNIC Latvia, this network is the one who's contributing to this cycle of seminars with specific lectures from participants from their home countries. And UNIC in Latvia has got the aim, or works with the aim, to provide platforms actually for debates and for exchange between not only between citizens but also between institutions of the EU member states. And our topics that we work on are pretty much the same as the current European topics today. It's sustainability and environment, cultural dialogue and diversity, gender equality, participation, democracy, just to name a few. So it very much fits actually to be part of these seminars and to discuss the topic of urban planning with the Latvian cities. And like all other cities all over Europe, there's this big challenge to create strategies for a progressive and sustainable development of cities and to prepare the cities for the future. And I think that the application for the European Capital of Culture offers a quite unique opportunity to work on these strategies and to create visions within this process of application. And or in the name of the UNIC members, I would also say that we're quite happy that we are able to contribute with, hopefully to contribute with ideas to this process of creating a strategy, and also to this creative process, and be part of this this event or these events. As Martin already mentioned, there have already been two seminars before from the Danish Cultural Institute and the French Institute. One was focused on cultural planning for cultural places, the other artistic creation in public spaces. And the Goethe Institute and the Nordic Council of Ministers will add another perspective today to this topic and look or take a closer look at the aspect of sustainability in urban planning, all this broad sense of the term. The Goethe Institute invited Professor Elke Pahl-Weber who teaches in the research department of urban, renewable and sustainable development at the Berlin University of Technology, the TU Berlin. And in her research work, she transferred the approach of design thinking to urban context and developed with her team a method, urban design thinking, which enables addressing complex problems, sorry, to address complex problems in a collaborative and creative way. And it's very interesting, not only because it's of its innovative aspects to it, but also because it's a very user-centered approach. So we are very happy that she will give us a deeper insight into this approach in her lecture. And we hope that we can give Latvian cities some ideas and inspiration on their way of preparing their cities for the future. And now I would like to pass on the word to Stefan Eriksson, the director of the Nordic Council of Ministers in Latvia. And I think he will give a short introduction into the Nordic lecture. So thank you very much, Paldies. And I would pass the word on directly to Stefan, if Martin is fine with that. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Arndt, and thank you for taking part in this webinar series. We're very happy from the Nordic Council of Ministers to be part of it. We're doing this together with the Norwegian Embassy. I would like to say at first that I'm not an expert on urban planning, but to some extent, I think we are all very much engaged in the issues of the environments that we're living in. I myself come from Stockholm, live in an area that is being, let's say, developed in a way that's not really, well, I would say sustainable and not to my taste. I think in general that the engagement in the issues of urban planning and urban design is very important from citizens. So I'm glad that we have this opportunity to talk about this with experts, but I think it's also important to have a wider discussion in societies on these issues. For me, it was a bit of an eye-opener when Danish Culture Institute a couple of years ago invited the famous Danish architect Jan Gehl to Riga. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to listen to him. And I mean, his books, or at least his book Cities for People, was translated to Latvian. He has also written a book called Life Between Buildings that really, for me, not being an expert, open up the importance of how we plan our cities. And after all, most of us live in cities today. But this time we will have a representative from Norway, from Ålesund. It so happens that, well, at least some of us are participating today from Riga, famous for its Art Nouveau architecture, which is even on UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. Ålesund, I haven't been there, unfortunately, is actually the city in Norway with most Art Nouveau architecture. So that's just a small coincidence. I don't think our Norwegian speakers will talk about that, but I'm dreaming myself of sometimes visiting Ålesund. We will have two representatives from United Future Lab Norway, Marielle Furnes Manset and Annelise Sagen Major. Well, United Future Lab Norway has been created in Ålesund with the aim of developing sustainable cities and communities and in achievement of the UN sustainability goals. So the idea is to create a global network where cities in the world can exchange their knowledge and strength and find sustainable and smart solutions. And this, I should also say, is very much in line with the Nordic ambitions in this area. We have a Nordic vision agreed upon by the Nordic countries that aims of making the Nordic region the most sustainable and integrated region in the world by 2030. Sorry, we still have some years to work on that. But in this vision, there is an action plan that actually speaks about issues that relates to urban planning. And I'm reading loud here from our action plan. The aim is to develop knowledge on the sustainable and climate adapted spatial planning of, for example, infrastructure, transport systems, which include strengthened Nordic cooperation at municipal level on green urban planning and development. So it's a Nordic ambition, and today we are taking part in a Nordic, Baltic, German context. So I really hope that it will be interesting for all participants to take part and listen to experiences. And thank you also, Arndt. You have recently become our neighbors, your partners in this webinar. We are both now located in Berga-Bazars. We haven't met yet, though, at your new location, but let's hope that will happen soon. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you to Stefan, Arndt, and Dace. I think we are ready to begin with Professor Elke Pahl-Weber, and she works at the Technical University of Berlin. She's a German architect, city planner, and lecturer, and her focus lies on megacities and energy-efficient urban structures, as well as sustainable city development. Besides, she also researches and counsels local councils on the subject of smart cities. And her presentation will be called Urban Design Thinking, the How of Coming to Future Creative Cities. And I believe she also has been helped, and maybe will be helped, by Kilian Flade, who is a co-worker of Professor Elke Pahl-Weber at the Technical University Berlin. So this is a full introduction. Welcome, Elke. The floor is yours, and we are happy to hear you.
Thank you very much for introducing me, inviting me, having me here. So we are in this webinar series, and my topic is urban design thinking. I'm talking on the how of coming to future creative cities. What is your objective as far as I got to know? Yes, I'm professor at the Technical University of Berlin, and I'm still professor in research. I stopped doing my lectures for a guest professor who is on my chair now. My topic today is urban design thinking, the how of coming to future creative cities, and thanks to Kilian Flade for supporting me by preparing this short presentation. You see these three pictures there. They're quite colorful. What do they show? Do they show the future of the cities? Do you have pictures how the future creative cities are looking like? Do we have common pictures of that? As far as I realized in my work all around the world, we do not have a common vision. This is really a challenge, because without a vision, it's really hard to set objectives. But how do we come to that? And this is the topic I want to deal with. I structured it in 3 points. The first is, what are our objectives? Where to go? What are the challenges? And what will we reach? And after that, the question is, how can we reach that? Because a lot of globally set objectives have not been reached so far. And then I want to introduce our new developed method of urban design thinking processes and what we learned from it. I hope I will make it within the time I have, otherwise you will say me, time is over. Yes, where to go? Where are the challenges? Where do we set objectives for the future creative city? I'm concentrating on 4 points. On urbanization, the increasing urbanization rate and its spatial results. We often do not look at the spatial results, at climate and resources and their spatial results, the digitization of cities. And what we put as to be the 4th point is the future creative city in terms of saying future. What can we predict? What is it like, the future? Nobody can. Nobody of us has been in the future yet. We work on predictions, but we are aware that we have a lot of unforeseeable events that we do not take in account for our predictions. So this is really making clear that we are not working on a static development, but on a very dynamic development we always have to react on if we talk about development of cities, even more development of sustainable cities. So let me give some insights in the 4 points. The first one, urbanization, is on the growth of cities. Since 2007, we have a shift in the global urbanization rate. The number of people living in cities exceeds the number of people living in rural areas. And if we go ahead and look to 2050, having in mind that we cannot really predict the future, but what we know now is there will be 95% global urban growth between 2015 and 2050 located in Asian and African cities. And as it is like this, we will have an important focus in global local migration flows, as these cities are already and will be becoming more the economic centers of the nations and of the global context. Today, approximately 7% of all new jobs and seen up to 2030 are expected to be generated in cities. And as people need their jobs, they will come to the cities. This is something we saw already more than 10 years ago. I think this picture is really very good explaining how different the dynamic processes all over the world are. This figure is already, or this picture is already coming from 2008 and gives a prediction up to 2015. The tendency is going ahead up to now. There are quite some differences that are not to be seen in this picture. What we see is that we in Europe will have urbanization, but we are at the end of the global list of urbanizing cities. The strongest development is seen in India. I have a research project there and we deal with the question how to develop these cities that face a migration. These figures from 2008 show Delhi, 79 people per hour. And this is what we face. There is Delhi, there is China, and what we see is Africa is following. So other parts of the world face a lot of more challenges in terms of urbanization like Europe does. But even so, we see that urbanization gives us a lot of challenges even in Europe. And as we heard by the first introduction, this urbanization and the demographic development are closely interlinked because we have a global population growth that shows us people live longer than they did 100 years ago. And we have a lot of aged society, old people living in cities. This differs between several parts of the world quite to a huge extent, but we see it as a tendency. And what we more than that see is that the demographic development has a considerable influence on real estate markets, not only in Germany. Germany is a renter country. We face that individuals and institutions increasingly focus on property as a supplementary on or alternative pension protection. And this results in a risk of overheated real estate markets all over the world. We see it in Germany since about 5 years that several countries have increasing prices for rents and buying residential facilities. That is really has been really unforeseeable. And the expectation this will go a little bit down during the global pandemic was wrong. In some cities, it even more increased. So, what does this development of urbanization and demographic development mean for the spatial development of the cities? Is it just a social development? Is it an economic development? Or can we establish something that we call the spatial context? We have extensive expansion of settlements still as a dominant trend in urban growth. And this leads to an interlinkage between urban and rural areas in intermediate cities, extended metropolitan regions, urban fringes, and even edge cities. And this taking part means that we have increasing resource consumption in the city, not just the floor, but everything, and maybe a decreasing energy efficiency of urban structures and system because the area to be supplied for is going broader and broader. And what we might not forget, in Europe, 99% of the cities is already erected. So there is a strong need to combine the existing urban stock, let me call it like this, and the expanding city in a strategic way that fits the demands of the people that live there. Let me give you one global example. It makes it very clear, and it's not just true for Johannesburg in South Africa. It's a trend we see all over the world. Here we see in 3 pictures we produced for a study we did for the Siemens entrepreneurship. And what we see is that the green open space is more and more becoming residential and built up area of the city. We see how many green open space is getting lost in about 20 years if the city is broadening and broadening and the extension is taking all the free country. And this is a trend we see all over the world. And not alone this, but it takes part in the consequences on our climate change and resources use. We know for a long time that cities carry a considerable responsibility for energy consumption. There are figures of 70%, 80%. It depends on how we count it. But cities, at the same time, are the centers for implementing a global energy market. And it's a market. It's not just dealing with energy as a natural resource, it's a market. So we have energy saving potential offered by the construction of building and infrastructures, the modernization of heating systems, emission-free vehicles, and access to renewable energies. And we have a lot of laws all over Europe that gives us rules how to deal with it, or what we shall deal with. How to deal with it is not set. But the risks associated with the climate change are important for life in the cities. Events like heavy rains, heat waves, droughts, and storm surges are associated with those risks. We just saw the sun in Riga shining today. We had it in Hamburg yesterday and the day before. But 7 days ago, we had about 30 degrees less. So it's very fast following weather conditions that forms a climate that is not really predictable any longer. And this is a huge challenge for the cities to deal with that. Yes, we have a lot of agreements, rules I already mentioned. We have the Paris Agreement, the European Green Deal was set up, but our biggest challenge is not to reach the set objectives. I don't know whether you know that we just had a decision by the German Constitution Court. The climate change law of Germany made or adopted 2019 is revised by this court, who says it's not ambitious enough to reach goals set for 2030. What will mean that the present generation is giving burden to the following generation to fulfill these goals. And this is against the German Constitution. We may not postpone our activities to the next generation. And this makes clear that demographic development and climate objectives are really connected. So there is a huge demand to revise this climate change and protection concept in Germany. What we know is that a lot of topics we have to deal with, a lot of action fields are technology driven, and we will not solve it with our human brains. We need this digital development to make the connection between these fields really synergetic. Therefore, one of the huge challenges is the digitization of cities. It's being discussed currently under the term of smart city all over the world. And there is a strong discussion between creative and technological industries, municipalities, states, countries, and so on. There will come up a lot of solutions that will be completely new and ask for a new behavior of people living in the cities. I'm convinced that if we come up, we as planners, with new technologies, saying to the people, you have to change your behavior, you have to leave your car at home or even to sell it or crash it, you must use public transport, it is not allowed to make your rooms warmer than 20 degrees, we will not be successful. This is why I say the cities are more than steel, glass, wood. They are complexes where people live and people form these spaces like the physical material as well. And this is why we need a dialogue. And I give you one example of Germany. The process of developing smart cities is taking place at a lot of institutions, but there is a central platform for the dialogue with all levels of actors participating. And there has been a Smart City Charter being published, worked out about 5 years ago. And actually, we are busy developing data strategies for a common good orientated urban development. It has been presented some days ago on 3rd of May in our Conference of National Urban Development Policy and will be worked out and will be an offer to come into a dialogue on what do we need? How can we shape it? And I think this is a quite good example for the question that it is not enough to say, what shall we do, but how shall we shape the process? Yes, and let me say to this topic of future creative cities, I introduced it by saying we cannot predict future, because nobody of us has been in future already and does not know what will happen. But to have a framework and set objectives is crucial for that. Already Socrates said, if you do not set objectives, every way is right. But having the right pathway means setting objectives in terms of a city that is promoting the common goods, that is striving for sustainability and climate protection and demographic cohesion. And I think this is one point why Germany in his EU presidency last year brought forward the new Leipzig Charter. The first one had been adopted in 2007 and the second one was in December 2020. And this Leipzig Charter is dedicated to the European city, which is quite different from what an Asian or African city is like, or even an American city. I think this is a quite good framework for setting goals, setting objectives, and coming into a dialogue. What is the right goal in this, within a set framework, a commitment all countries have for the right place? Even in one state, it's not the same goals. It's related to the special place where it shall be developed further. Yeah, and what do we see if we do that? Cities are facing multiple major challenges, and these threaten their existence and future. And those challenges or the results of development are even getting worse. So creativity, oh, sorry, I see a spelling mistake, is needed to tackle those complex and interwoven problems. The knowledge and ideas of residents of cities, from our point of view, is a massive creative potential to tackle those wicked problems. But how can the barrier between professional expertise and everyday knowledge be broken? This is the question of the how to come to creative urban cities or urban conditions, and this is a process of transformation the cities are in. And if you have a transformation, there is the question how to shape it, how to design this process. And we have not yet, we as urban planners, even so as we as part of those who give consult to politicians and urban administrations, have not yet made clear enough that there is a need for a new paradigm. Cities are complex entities with dynamically changing spaces. And the smart city is not just a technological topic, it needs a spatial perspective. And we are not quite clear about the process of urban environments succeeding in becoming smart. This is why we should deal with the how of this transformation processes. Because what we need, roughly spoken, is a holistic approach, a combination, connection, and integration of all urban aspects. And we should analyze cities in a context of complex system and not forget the role of space. It's a context of complex systems working together. It's not just one system and even not a machine. So this process of transition cannot deny that the cities are the places where people live and work. So the human factor is essential for development in urban space. If we put the citizens first, it might be that we produce a better technology, have greater success in the theory of urban problems, and we increase acceptance of solutions. But let me say, it's not just acceptance, it's creating the solutions, being part of the creational process. This is crucial for the process of transition. My experience during the last years working with urban design thinking is that if the people taking part in it feel being part of the transition process, they never say, yes, maybe you're right, but not in my backyard. They ask, what is my part in it? How can I fulfill my needs? What is your needs? Can we combine this? How shall we do it? It's completely different. And let me say it quite clear. It's completely different what we learned in the last 30 or even 50 years about participation in the cities. Because participation always asks people, are you content with the solutions experts are working on? They do not involve the creative moment of the people living in the cities like it is needed for the transition process. And what we know and what is needed is that we have a multi-stakeholder process. We as planners, if we are the moderators of this process, we have to take care for that all those having a stake can be part of this process. So using design thinking can shape urban space and address challenges we see in the smart cities. And this is more than integrating technologies or even a technology approach. It's a societal approach to come to a new stage of urban development. And this is what I just said. Smart cities are complex systems and have a lot of interrelated subsystems. They are not controllable systems like a machine, but complex systems like an organism. And these problems we can call wicked. And to solve wicked problems, we cannot build up a strategy that does one step behind the other and comes to the top, and then the problem is solved. What we need is an iterative process, always asking, are we at the right point? Do we set the right goals? Have we been following our objectives? And this is something we strive for with our urban design thinking method. I just explained my special view of urban space, and what it includes is the knowledge of citizens. We needed to understand, it's crucial to understand the concerns of people. What do they need and what are they ready to pay for? If we know that, we can do our professional job as developer of cities. And this need is not visible if you ask someone, are you ready to go by public transport, not longer by your car? You will not get the answer. You must talk about it, see what is needed. What are the people striving for? What do they want? And then we come to a set of goals that gives us conditions for planning processes to enable smart urban transformation. I already said it must be a holistic approach. It must improve the understanding of complex problems, and it will only just be successful if it is citizen-centered and place-specific. Yes, there is consensus building. It will not be successful all the way. So sometimes one group says, okay, we do it like this now. Sometimes another group says, what is important is that all decisions, all the dialogue form a strategic concept for the development of the cities. And this is our urban design thinking method we use. Sorry. That's just life. Yes, our urban design thinking method allows us to deal with these wicked problems, and I just explained there is no method to come one step behind the other and at the top you have the solution. Even so, it's a linear concept, but always going back and asking, are we at the right point? Do we see what is needed? Have we developed the right space for solutions? So I want to give you some example. How did we apply it? At my chair, we have a lot of research projects and lectures about this topic. And we are not just working in Berlin. We have other regions like the south of Germany, and we are even applying it in Indian cities. In the city of Mannheim, in the south of Germany, we asked, or the question of the transformation was, what can migrants do for a sustainable development of cities? It's not the question we are used to bring forward. What can the city do for the migrants? But what can the migrants do? And let me say, those migrants who took part in this process were really delighted to be asked for taking a stake in a process and not being asked, how do you feel? This was really a very good process. And what we do is strong discussion on what is needed. And we do a little bit of abstraction and create a person we have in mind. It's not this anonymous, the one, but it's this person. And we are working on a lot of topics. And what is decisive is that we create prototypes. And these prototypes are being tested in the urban space. And this is really a very good thing, because after this testing period, we, the whole group of stakeholders, go back and ask, what did the people who tested it say? Can we improve our thing? Are we on the right way? And this makes clear, having prototypes being tested in the public space means there are a lot of people who are not selected by any method who take a stake in the process. Our experience is people like to do that. So if you look at this picture, what might that be? That was the question. How can we work in the future city? And what the migrants say is, we do not really have a space we can work in. And they created a wooden cube that can be put on different places in the town, in this case, the town of Mannheim, and that can be rented just for the time it is needed. The University of Mannheim said, that's great. This is exactly what we need. We will put it in front of our university. Another point is that we had the question how to move in the city. And the migrants said, if we go to the public transport, we are not looked upon as to be the usual user, but we are looked at as strangers. We would like to show people what is our culture. So maybe we come in dialogue by that. And the public transport company in Mannheim said, this is really a good proposal. We do it 2 times a year, make this culture tram and bring people together talking about what is needed and what is the driver of their behavior. And let me just show that it is not possible just if you have working together in presence. During the pandemic, we tried to do it by virtual dialogue using an integrative, interactive wall or people could work on. Yes, it is not so good if just to concentrate on this form, but it is possible. And it makes the development even a little bit smarter and maybe even quicker, faster. In another project, we asked people in Berlin, how can we distribute our ordered goods if we do not use the small lorries. How can this be? And what we created is a process of the development. We had an entrepreneur for bikes in our team, a development of creating an e-vehicle cargo bike to come to a solution that there is a combination between the distribution of goods and the mobility need of people. You can combine it. This has not done before. That was really interesting. And we did it in our research project in India as well. It's Bhubaneswar, Coimbatore, and Kochi, 3 cities all over the country in different regions. And for the Indian people, it was quite new to say, prototypes? We do it one-to-one in reality. And doing the prototypes and coming into a discussion in the open space was a complete new experience and led to more and better results they had before. So let me sum up. I hope I have not been too long. We often discuss the objectives and topics of urban development to come to smart urban development. But the process of transformation is crucial for this. And this is why the question of how is brought forward by us. Urban development creates the space people live and work in and with. So people are a constitutive part of the space, and they must be a constitutive part of urban development. My thesis is, if we stick to the human scale in its more technical view, we will not deal with the challenges of urban development in a successful way. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Elke, for your presentation on smart cities. Of course, we are welcome. You're welcome to ask questions in the chat section. Of course, I have a few questions in my mind as well. And one of the things you said, I might not rephrase it correctly, but it was something like, when you have no objectives, every way sounds good. But of course, the question is how to be successful, how to choose this successful way. And especially when cities are those complex creatures and we don't really know how to start, where to start, which way to go in any case of or any situation. And could the answer be prototyping? We try out one thing and see if it works. But the situation is, if we have time for prototyping all our possible ways. So there is this, it's a very complex question. Hopefully you understand. The idea is how to find, or how to try to envision possibly the right way to take in developing your city or any city. And if it's prototyping, can it be done faster than what time we are available? Because sometimes cities simply have no time available.
Of course, it's a question of time as well. And maybe there's a misunderstanding. What I wanted to say is, if you do not set objectives, goals at the beginning, you can go every way and every way is right, but you don't know where you will end.
Sure.
You have, it's crucial to set objectives in the beginning, and we have a lot of objectives. But what we see is setting these objectives is not sufficient for getting them from paper into reality. This prototyping area, yes, I pointed it out as to be crucial for a process of common understanding. Let me say, if we do it like in Mannheim or Berlin, it takes us about 4 weeks to 12 weeks. if we set up a normal development urban planning program like a physical plan in Germany, it takes us more time. So I think we have to look at it with a really true view. How much time is needed really in a process? And urban design thinking does not need so much more time than usual planning processes do. This is one experience a huge German residential development company made, as they did not use our method, but invited all people living in the area where they wanted to build and asked them for their visions. And after that, they were ready to build, not to fight with people saying, not in my backyard. So it was really a good time frame they had for this process.
So again, sounds like urban cultural planning that we started these webinar series with. You ask people what they need and you take them for granted. You don't look from top to bottom.
Yeah.
You ask people to do what to give them some sort of a mapping exercise and find out what is necessary, not what is a dream for the city. And if we have no other questions, I have another one that actually is a little bit, it's more like philosophical. It's not that technical. And in the beginning of presentation, you gave us this beautiful, not so beautiful picture about the future of cities, saying that there's going to be a massive growth in several areas around the world. And at some point, it also feels that this mass urbanization repeats the history itself, because those areas that are facing growth now also were the areas that were suffering or still are suffering from the pandemic the most. And we can talk about Brazil, we can talk about India. In the beginning was also China, also probably New York. Also in your map, in your image, there was a huge growth there. Are there any cities, are there any urban areas, or even are there any countries that have some sort of a strategy how to use smart or digital tools in order to fight that sort of pandemics or that sort of calamity, is also force majeure taking over the city? Are there any cities actually thinking about how their mass urbanization can be helped with when having these sort of predictive tools or some sort of a digital prediction machines that calculate what kind of situations can take place, what kind of calamities or disasters might take place? Because for now, I don't really think any city uses any data of thinking what the next scenario for them will be if something like another pandemic takes place. I don't know if any of cities are learning from these mistakes, that we don't have any tool. Do you have anything coming in mind, or do you suggest?
Yes, I have something coming in my mind. It is this unforeseeable event, this pandemic. Even so, we could have seen it. And we have in history the experience of the, how is it in English? This grippevirus after the First World War. It was a global pandemic, and we saw what was needed. And we could have known it, but we didn't. We didn't look at it. And we have not been aware that not the huge cities as a whole are suffering from this pandemic in this terrible way. It's the poor parts. And this is something that has not been worked out clearly, but that is something we should do. And let's ask for what is living in a residential area, having work, having an income, and this is has been called some clearance, something like that, development of informal settlements. We had a discussion, but I'm quite sure in following the pandemic, we will have a new look at it. And me as a professor, does not know what do these people really need. I can expect it, but I do not know it. If I will not, or the planners will not ask them, how can we do it? What is your part in it? This will not come to a good outcome.
Also, the funniest, in this case, also ironical thing was that when the work from home was announced, all of us were happy in saying that this is going to sort everything, but those people are from middle class or lower class, most likely those who are in the biggest danger from the pandemic, can usually not afford to work from home because they are usually doing manual labor. And again, this sort of a digitalization, the happiness of digitalization didn't work because it usually only protected those who are at some sort of a positive well-being, don't have any critical situation with their lives or critical situation with their household. And so simply by digitalizing things, you also cannot help with the situation.
But let me give one question back then. Are you sure that the process of industrial production will be the same in 20 years like today? What we talked about is how can Industrial 4.0 or 5.0 even, the digitalized industrial production, how can it take place? And one of the ideas is that we will have a lot of small places where via digitalization, the production process is taking place. We do not need these huge machines of industrial production anymore. Nobody knows whether this will come, but it is worthwhile thinking it over, even in terms of solving pandemic challenges.
Okay. Seems we don't have questions from the audience. It's a lot of material to chew on. So thank you very much from Professor Elke Pahl-Weber from Technical University of Berlin, and also thanks to Kilian Flade, who was co-working with the professor and helping this to come through. If you have any more questions, you can of course ask them in the chat for the future, but we are moving on to our next presentation. That is actually going to be a video shared from Norway. And it's going to be presented by two people. And the topic is going to be called Agenda 2030, Action Now with United Future Lab Norway. And United Future Lab Norway is an initiative within the municipality of Ålesund with the main objective to accelerate the development of smart and sustainable cities and communities and contribute to achieving the United Nations Sustainability Goals by 2030. The lab facilitates a closer collaboration between public actors, businesses, and academia through projects with a focus on smart and sustainable development. We will have a video presented. There will be no actual speakers in real time, but after the presentation, we will have one of the speakers here to answer the questions if there might be any. Of course, there will be some questions from me. This is how it usually happens. And the person in person will be Marielle Furnes Mansenth. She is a CEO of United Future Lab Norway, also Masters in Informatics with Executive Education in Innovation and Sustainable Business Models. And she has a huge experience for more than 20 years in various domains. She will most likely also introduce it during the video and after. And another person to present in the video will be Dr. Annelise Sagen-Meyer, and she's a strategic futurist in Ålesund municipality, also from United Future Lab Norway, also has 20+ years of experience in research and innovation with a focus on service design and digitalization. And I think we are ready to continue with the video.
Hello and welcome to Ålesund and United Future Lab Norway. My name is Annelise.
And my name is Marielle. Located here on the west coast of Norway, Ålesund is Norway's 9th largest city with around 70,000 inhabitants. And with the most important fishing harbor in Norway and a strong industrial history, the area contributes to a large amount of the total export for Norway. The tourism and travel industry is also very important. Natural resources and the proximity to the sea has always laid a very strong foundation for what we are today. And due to the importance of the natural resources, either the ocean for the industries or the beauty of the fjords for the tourism, sustainability has always been very important and a key factor for us living here. And Ålesund was the first Norwegian city to apply the UFRSSC's KPIs for smart and sustainable cities. And United Future Lab, established and run by Ålesund municipality, is developed through collaboration with partners. We will now tell you a little bit about how we work and give you a few examples of our projects. The lab is, as I said, a part of UFRSSC, United for Smart and Sustainable Cities, which is United Cities program for smart and sustainable cities. And we are the second lab in the world to have this status. Vienna has one lab and Ålesund has one lab. With currently 65 partners from different sectors and different industries, both local, national, and international, some small and some large, the common factor for all of these partners is that they want to collaborate and work towards becoming more sustainable, to find new solutions and opportunities, and to work together in partnerships doing this. Having operated just over 1 year, the Future Lab now has around 20 future-oriented projects currently running, and 40 projects finished or in the beginning in our total portfolio. Kari Aina Eik, Secretary General of United Cities and the leader of UFRSSC, is a key support for us in our work. Being from Ålesund, Kari has now moved from Vienna back to Ålesund, and we work closely together towards our common goals. And the Northwest is our conference arena, where sustainability and culture meets, where people meet to build relations, increase knowledge, share experiences, and challenge established truths. Our common ultimate goal is this, the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals defined by UN, and this is our joint action plan. And of course, all 3 dimensions of the SDGs are important: the biosphere dimension, the society dimension, and the economy dimension. And all projects in the lab defines which SDG to target. Most often, a project has more than one SDG and is within more than one dimension. And we also defined a project that targets SDGs within all 3 dimensions and also includes all 3 sectors, the private sector, the public sector, and academia, to be a lighthouse project in the lab. Our most important SDG is goal number 17. Working in partnerships is the core of what we do. Together, we work in projects within all 3 dimensions of sustainability, and through this, the projects create value and opportunities for the partners involved. To be able to do this, a crucial factor is to have a meeting place like this arena for the partners to meet, to innovate, and to work together. And we focus highly on the project development, because here is where we take it from words into action. And knowledge sharing and development is, of course, both the input and the output of our work together in our joint partnership. And the results we want to create. Value creation is the key here for both the parties involved and also for the society as a whole. And also, the innovation and service development in public sector is a very important goal for us. And to find the business opportunities into the KPIs that I will tell you a little bit more about is the realization of these opportunities through the KPIs is also a very important goal. And these KPIs, to be able to know exactly what to do. The KPI analysis of how sustainable we are is an important tool and a knowledge base for us. The KPIs were developed by 17 UN organizations with U4SSE as a leader in this. And here you see the finished KPI analysis for Ålesund, Sula and Giske. In here is lots of opportunities for improvement, for innovation, for new businesses and for sharing. Today, 1/4 of all municipalities in Norway has done the analysis, and around 250 cities all over the world has done the analysis. This is a fantastic tool for sharing ideas and solutions, and it can be an innovation platform for all sectors. And being part of the U4SSE network as a lab means that we can help our partners in finding new solutions and also to share these. The Future Lab wants all partners to participate in at least one smart and sustainable project, small or large. And our role is to be a facilitator and a catalyst for these projects, to connect partners from different sectors into value-driven collaborations. We also help partners in getting started and moving further in their sustainability work. For example, we've had a sustainability workshop with one of our partners in the furniture industry and also in the maritime industry, focusing on how they can implement sustainability into their value chain. On neutral ground, as a meeting arena, both physical and digital, we are able to facilitate meetings, workshops, and projects in partnerships. And this gives great value and drives results. So we are a neutral party with the ideal purpose of becoming more sustainable as a society. And we see that we are able to connect partners from different sectors into these collaborations and into these projects, which normally will not naturally collaborate because of just that, because we are neutral. And now we will tell you a little bit more about some examples of specific projects that we have going on. So Annelise, will you take it from here?
Thank you, Marielle. Yeah, hello everyone. Annelise is my name, and I work for the municipality of Ålesund as a future navigator or strategic futurist. And I work here at the lab, at the United Future Lab Norway. And I helped the municipality services or departments to get into innovation projects together with research institutions or academia or private business. So I want to tell you a little bit more about our projects, small projects, large projects, and I hope you will be interested. First, the car sharing project. This is a project that was born in the lab due to the KPI analysis that Marielle talked about. Actually, we were not very good in this field. So car sharing is well known in bigger cities, but it's not so well known in smaller cities. Actually, it's not very often economically sustainable in smaller cities. So in this project, Ålesund municipality has gone together with a local bank and a local energy supplier and established this car sharing solution. And this will improve a few of the dimensions in the KPI analysis. And actually it could be an environmental dimension, economic dimension, and also the social dimension, because the cars, they will be available for the public after the working day of the municipality. And what's actually very interesting about the KPI analysis and very valuable, that's the discussion that the result creates. And actually, an example is within the cultural domain. When we got the results of the analysis here in Ålesund, we were red and gray on the culture dimension. And we were asking, why is that? And that created a question on how can we measure culture? And our director of culture in the municipality is very interesting to start a project on this. And then we collected some partners from the Culture Art Institute in Trondheim, and we started to discuss to create a project about this. Because actually the KPI analysis today, it measures how we, I have to look here, culture expenditure and culture infrastructure. So this is not enough. So in the discussion with the professor at the Art Institute, actually we put this a little bit aside because we came across a very interesting call from Urban Europe, and we decided to go for this together with 4 other European cities. So then we have recently applied for funding for Urban Europe, and in this project we will create knowledge about urban innovation systems, and we will do this by collaborating with artists and use artistic methods when renovating and develop urban spaces. And this is urban revitalization in the spirit of the new European Bauhaus. I'm sure you know about the new European Bauhaus, but this is a creative and interdisciplinary initiative from Europe to design future ways of living, situated at the crossroad between art, culture, social inclusion, science, and technology. And it is about creating an effort to imagine and build the future that is sustainable, inclusive, and beautiful. And then a completely different example of a project. This is a project we are currently doing, is the Global Growth Program together with Innovation Norway and the United Cities. This is illustrated by a photo from the launch and a partner meeting a few months ago. And the goal here is to open new market, specifically in Singapore and Southeast Asia, to our partners that have sustainable solutions to deliver to these markets. So it's a win-win situation. And then I want to say something about, it's not only one project, actually it's a few projects now. We call it smart planning. And in this project, we want to develop a digital twin of the municipality and make it possible to visualize different solutions when planning the community. So in this way, the decision makers are able to see the community in a greater perspective and create deeper understanding of the overall decisions in the planning process. So what's very interesting in these projects is the interdisciplinary aspect. We are working together with technological institutions and professors, human science, architecture and design, and we have the private business as well. And as I said, this started with one project where we work with an area and transport plan for the region, but it has developed to be more projects that we have received funding from the Norwegian Research Council. So this is an example on how the digital twin and digital tool can work. And this is the tool, and we can visualize knowledge in form of data in this tool. And we are trying to find out how can the politicians and the administration work around and together such a tool. And then we also have projects targeting the social dimension of the sustainability goals. The E-Teams is an example of that. This is funded by Sparebanken Møre, which is our local bank, and this is an arena where children and youth can get recognition for their competencies, the digital talents, and who they are and what they can do. And then I'm very happy to introduce our very last project. This is a launch, this is a welcome to you in Latvia, that we are going to cooperate on the United for Smart and Sustainable program together with you. And we got this message last week from your lab in Riga, VFresh. So Ålesund municipality, together with United Future Lab Norway, together with Riga and the other municipalities in Latvia, and together with VFresh and together with United Cities, we are going to collaborate on the KPI analysis for Latvia and the innovation opportunities that's there. And in that, I want to welcome Kari. Actually, she's here. As Marielle said, she lives in Ålesund now. So please, Kari, can you just say hello to Latvia and what you would like to explore there?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's fantastic that we're going to cooperate on this project together. And as you've seen, there is so much experience here from Ålesund, in not just doing the KPI analysis, but also in terms of projects. Because we're not just collecting data for collecting the data. We want actually that it will be some progress and development out of this data and facts and all the things that we do. So we are super excited to be starting to work together with you on collecting this data, working on very concrete projects in many of these areas that you've just seen here. And I think it will be a fantastic cooperation that could lead to a lot of things, and also with the lab in Latvia, and also bringing in cities, and not just in Riga, but also around in Latvia that could cooperate in this network. Also here in Norway, Ålesund is also part of the sustainability network of cities in Norway. And this is also now picking up a lot of speed. And actually now I think we are evaluating around 80 cities and communities in Norway currently. So there's quite a big network here with good projects and competence that everybody wants to share with you, and also learn from how you are doing things in Latvia. So very, very excited and looking very much forward to working with you on this and other projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kari.
So thank you.
Thank you very much for letting us present United Future Lab, when we are so looking forward to working together with you on this project, and who knows, many more. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the video. I presume we have Marielle here on spot. There she is.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We had a bonus person. We didn't have 2 speakers. We had 3 for the same place. That's good.
That was a surprise.
And of course, like previously, for all of the listeners, you have a possibility to ask questions in the chat section. While we're waiting for some to come in, if any, I have this one very practical way of question. I presume that the organization, the United Future Lab Norway, is right under the municipality, or is it working with the municipality?
Both, actually. We're part of the municipality at the moment. So the municipality of Ålesund was the initiator and owns the lab. So we are a part of the lab. We are an organization driven by the municipality and the partners. And also the municipality has chosen to put some of their staff working with innovation, technology, and sustainability into the team of the lab. And so we're both. We're a very important part of the municipality.
I know that, so this is where the next question derives. I know that some cities might have similar organizations or similar sort of symbiosis between the city and these urban labs. But in your case, what would be the guiding steps for any other municipality in order to start something similar to United Future Lab Norway and work with the municipality? Because what we want to achieve is that the municipality is taking part in this, and they are not just non-governmental organizations. So what were your steps that you took in order to be part of a city, not to be a separate entity that works with the city?
Well, here it started with the KPI analysis. It started with Ålesund making the decision to be the first municipality in Norway to actually perform the KPI analysis. So it started with that, and to just perform the KPI analysis without having a plan of actually doing something, it's not worth anything. So with the close collaboration with U4SSE and United Cities and the chance we got there, it was decided that let's start a lab to actually work with the challenges that we see in the KPI analysis and the possibilities that we see in the KPI analysis, and to use that as a step to becoming closer to the private businesses in the area, and also to academia. So that was the first step, to actually do the KPI analysis and to make the decision that this is important to Ålesund and the other municipalities around. We want to make a difference here. That was the first step. And how to start a lab like this is, we can share more of how we have developed it. And but bringing partners in was the first step, bringing some important stakeholders and partners in, and then to develop it further together with these partners have been very important to us, and still is.
The question here still stands. Who did run the KPIs and who were to say that let's start a lab? Was it sort of sort of an entity within a municipality? Was it the department or?
It was actually the mayor and the director of the municipality. So it was the leaders of the municipality that made this decision. Because they had the connection with U4SSC, they got in contact with them and heard what this was. And the KPI analysis is a knowledge base, and it actually facts that says how sustainable and smart are we as a society. So it was that connection, and then the leaders of the municipality decided that let's do this.
So it is open to be open-minded within the organizational level.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Do we have any questions in the chat section? Or do we have any questions from the audience, from the speakers? Maybe Elke or someone else could answer, could give a question. I have one, probably the last one. I don't know, maybe. You were talking about some sort of activities, and what activities are you taking place now? Do you have any kind of larger plans or one big thing that you would like to succeed at within Ålesund? Not talking about the global wings, but what's one thing that you set as the sort of a massive goal or important goal that you want to achieve when using the United Future Lab?
It's actually, if you break it,
probably in 5 years' time.
In 5 years' time, I hope that we have had many more projects, both starting and finishing with good results. And we say many projects because we believe that breaking down the big challenges that we have into smaller projects and tangible projects where we can actually drive results in each project, that in total gives good results. And of course, we want to measure again the KPI analysis, do the KPI analysis again. We don't have a set date for that, but one of my goals is that to do the KPI analysis again in a year or 2 or 3, and then to see the results that we have had as a lab within these different projects, to go from red to orange to green in many of these indicators. And of course, to have an ecosystem that actually thrives and is an innovation ecosystem that has businesses and has academia close to the lab. So that is for Ålesund in specific, that our goals.
What did the pandemic look like at the lab? What changed, and what were the lessons that you learned that you need to do something differently?
Well, the pandemic it's real now because at the moment we have a breakout in Ålesund, so I'm almost alone here at the lab. The pandemic taught the municipality and also the lab to become more digital in our meetings, of course. The speed of digitalization for the municipality was really fast. And for the lab, it has meant that all these plans of those big physical meetings would have to be moved to a digital platform. And that has been challenging in some ways. And also, of course, we learned a lot from it. But what we have learned is that with all the digital meetings, we are able to connect, as we see now in this meeting, in a much wider sense with all different areas from the world. But we also lose something if we only have digital meetings, because to be able to meet here in the lab physically is worth so much. We have so many good coincidental meetings here, and good ideas pop out from these coincidental meetings. It can be in a break in a workshop, or in the coffee by the coffee machine. So many good ideas and collaborations has come from meeting physically here. So we are really looking forward to being able to have these big meetings and many small meetings, and use the co-working space that we have, and use the lab as a physical area, because we see that it really has value. It's really important to have this physical area.
Okay, thank you, Marielle. Also, thanks to non-present Annelise. And what was the name of the third person?
Kari Aina Eik, who's the leader of U4SSC.
Okay, thanks to her too. And this is the end from the Agenda 2030 Action Now with United Future Lab Norway presentation that turned out to be a video presentation. And also I'd like to say thanks to Elke Pahl-Weber and Kilian Flade, who had this opportunity to present our first speech, our first presentation called Urban Design Thinking, the how of coming to future creative cities. And also thanks to Stefan, Arndt, and Dace for welcome words for the event. This is the end of the 3rd out of 3 event or webinar series dedicated to future creative cities. And the events were hosted by Dace Malmbade, and she's, I will give you the final time, the full title of Dace. She's the member of the European Parliament and the Vice Chair of the Committee on Culture and Education. And the event was financially supported by European Conservatives and Reformists Group, organized in partnership with UNIC Latvia, non-governmental organizations Artesis and Culture Lab. And all 3 webinars, whether you participated in any of the previous 2, but this one and also the others are available soon on the culturallab.com website and also in social media channels. Please follow Culture Lab on Facebook or any other media that they use. And thank you very much for participating. I hope the weather is nice where you are now. And I think it's time for us to go out and have a walk and enjoy what the city brings to us. Thank you much from Riga. Thanks from me. And thanks from Artesis, Culture Lab, UNIC Latvia, and everybody else involved. So we have a link if you want to click on the culturallab.com. Anyway, apart from that, thank you very much. Stay negative. Goodbye.